Welcome to part 3 of the Ego series. Ego is your ally. Make sure you watch the previous 2 videos to get a better, more full grasp of this episode. The previous videos we were talking about spirit, soul, consciousness, how they all interconnect. I am not going to focus too much on spirit in this video because, as you'll see, there's about 2 hours of me analysing Eckhart Tolle, Ryan Holiday, Krishnamurti or something, and there's one other guy, that's Hughes. What I want to talk about right now is lexical imprecision, because that's what you'll see that these people use. They are not precise with their terms. Lexical imprecision. They conflate their concepts. The term ego, they most often use to represent arrogance. Whenever you listen to them and the way they talk, they'll say, your ego gets in the way of opportunities. Your ego stops you from talking to other people. And just in those couple contexts, arrogance actually doesn't fit. You're like, well, what is that? What are they actually talking about? It's so ambiguous, so vague, so generalized, so non-specific. And that's the point, because it confuses people. They don't have anything to grasp on. It's an anti-concept. It's not a real concept to them. But ego actually is a real concept, like I've explained. It's your sense of self, your memories, your experiences, your preference, your desires, your likes and dislikes, all your knowledge, everything you've perceptually experienced, everything you've thought, identified with, your conscious, subconscious, unconscious, all of that forms your ego. And then you have the spirit. Well, what is the spirit? I'm not going to venture into that territory. It's so hard because they all link together, but this video is long enough as it is. So that's what I really want to press hard on, is that lexical imprecision, the conflation of ego with different ideas. It's using that same word, ego, because remember, a word is a visual or auditory symbol. Ego, I'm saying it. You write it down. That's now a written word. That's the visual component when you write it down. Ego, you say it. Auditory symbol. It's a symbol. Just like in computer code, you have all these different symbols. They represent different things. In every different human spoken language, every word is a different symbol. And all those words represent the objective concept. The word for dog in every language is going to be different. But the concept of a dog is the same, regardless of what placeholder symbol is used to describe it. Ego will be called das Ich in German. It will be called something else in every other language. Computer code, you could express it some other way. But the concept is objective. It is what it is. That is the fact of reality. That's what we are as conscious free-willed beings. The self, the I, that sense of me is the ego. That is a very good thing. You want that. Without that, well, you're nothing. You don't even know you're conscious. You're a rock. You're not here. You're an AI or something. So be mindful of that conflation, that equivocation. So to read out my slightly more formal explanation of conflation and equivocation, when people are conflating ego, and they're typically doing it with arrogance, it's the improper merging of separate ideas, terms, or categories into one. Conflation describes the broader semantic mistake of blending the meaning of 2 words. So if people routinely use ego to mean arrogance without recognizing the original psychological, the actual sense of the term ego, they're conflating the lexical item, ego, like the word, with the concept of arrogance. And this is an incorrect integration of word and concept. In logical semantic terminology, oh, that just sounds cool, doesn't it? It sounds great. That mistake can be labeled a terminological identity error, or the false assumption that 2 distinct terms denote the same entity. Ego. Oh yeah, I meant. Oh yeah, yourself, your psychological self. And then they use it in a totally different category. Oh, your ego, to mean something completely different. Your ego is that thing which gets in the way of your success. What? What are you talking about, man? You'll hear them say it. So it's when a speaker treats the term ego or any other word interchangeably or identical as another term, in this case, arrogance, most predominantly. And that's conflation. Equivocation is very similar. It's a specific logical fallacy that arises when an argument shifts a word's meaning mid-reasoning. And out of the speakers next, the only one who properly does this, I think, is Chase Hughes, where he introduced in the beginning ego as something that cannot be separated from yourself. It is you, and how he says, I'd only want to trick you if I wanted to control you, basically. But then he completely equivocates and changes his conceptual usage of the word ego. He changes it, whereas at least the other people are consistent. They don't really ever refer ego accurately to what it really means. They equivocate on pride. Ryan Holiday does that with pride. One point he says, humility kills pride. Yes, that's great because it's written on David's sword when he killed Goliath. Yes, kill pride. But then he says in another example, there was some dude who was a tailor and he took pride in his work, and that was a good thing. He got behind that. So he was equivocating on there because in one sense he's saying, oh, pride is good. Another sense he's saying pride is not good. So that's equivocation. Whereas Eckhart Tolle and Krishna, whoever, they're using the term ego just in the wrong sense. They don't ever, that I can recall, use it in a proper sense. They're always misusing it and they're conflating it. They're still conflating it, but from what I remember, they're not equivocating because I've already made those other videos. I'm making this intro part last. Another way to frame it is that they confuse ego with specific conceptual defects of character, like whether that's subjectivism or arrogance or humility or etc. So now we've got that out of the way, and it will become clearer with those preceding examples. I've got a few more questions about ego, because people say, I want to dissolve the ego, I want an ego death, I don't want to identify the ego, blah, 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 blah. The question when it comes to ego is, do you want to be you? Because when you're saying, I don't want to have an ego, you're saying, I want to die and I want to be reset and I want to be someone else, because that's the only thing that can happen to you. What else do you think is going to happen if you don't have an ego? Perhaps maybe you'd reincarnate as an animal and you'd devolve. Perhaps you'd get that and maybe you'd be considered lucky until you get eaten by a tiger or some shit as a buffalo. And it takes you 3 hours to die. Well, lucky you then. If that's what you want, if you don't want to be you, you hate yourself so much, because that's what the ego is, it's yourself. So these questions, are you happy being who you are, or do you want to be rid of yourself? Do you cause yourself more pain than pleasure? Because if you are, then you're saying, I hate my ego, I want to get out of it. I want to die. I want to be someone or something else because I'm causing myself more pain. Yeah, it's probably not consciously. That's why you're not understanding what ego is. Are you your own worst enemy? Is this why you want to dissolve, disidentify, destroy your ego? Because you hate yourself. You despise and are disgusted by being who you have chosen to become. Because you chose it. You have free will, whether you like it or not. That's what you have. Unless you're an AI and you are determined. Because if you like yourself, then why would you want to be rid of yourself? You wouldn't. You'd want more. You want more of you. Does the thought of being yourself for eternity frighten you? Or even for 2 more years? Is the thought of being you forevermore, does that excite or terrorize you? The thought of being who you are forever? You know, get comfortable with that if you're comfortable with that. Being forever yourself. Well, being you for another month, a year, 10 years, 100 years, no problem. If you say you wouldn't want to be yourself forever, why? Really dig into that. Maybe you could come up with some rational reasons, like you just want to experience being someone else. It's not that you don't like yourself, you just live for 1,000,000 years theoretically, and you're like, yep, I'm done, I'll start again. Yeah, fair enough answer. But if it's anything but that, well, you may have a problem. Do you envision future company with yourself to be hellish or heavenly? How you explains, cut that out. How you answer explains why you think of the ego the way you do, because it's how you think of yourself. Whatever your description of ego is, that's how you're describing yourself. You need to understand that. Do you want to be intelligent, conscious? Do you want to be a free-willed individual? Or do you want to be part of the ball? Do you want to be a rock? Do you want to be a dog, a chicken, a cow? A leaf blowing in the wind? What do you want to be? Because if you want to dissolve your ego, you're saying, I want to be anything but me. And no wonder you feel like shit and want to destroy yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a downward spiral. Cut that shit out and learn a real philosophy. Okay, let's now crack on into these gurus talking about ego, and you'll hear me. You won't see my face. It's just my audio narrating and giving my 2 cents on these gurus' inaccurate expositions on ego. All right, have fun, enjoy. I'll see you later. Bye.
Why did I work for nothing for 15 years and then the whole thing that I built up collapsed? Why? It's dreadful, dreadful. All this begins to dissolve because you realize you're unconsciously creating suffering and strengthening the egoic personality through that. And then
I agree. Whenever you're unconsciously creating suffering, that's bad. Even if you're consciously creating suffering that is for longer than necessary and irrational in its response of intensity and duration, that's a problem. But then he says it's strengthening the egoic personality. Well, just like anything else strengthens your personality, your egoic personality. If you keep on identifying with suffering, yes, that makes you who you are. If you identify with someone who overcomes suffering, that makes you who you are. If you keep on putting more energy into being courageous or being patient, whatever it is, that strengthens your egoic personality. It's not just this one negative thing affecting some other negative thing that you want to dissolve and get rid of. No, that's the wrong way to look at it.
my life then is just memories. And you begin to realize, as I sometimes put it, or people find it a little weird, when I say, my life isn't a correct way of putting it, because you don't have a life. You don't have a life. Because if you have a life, there's you and life. How can you be separate from life?
No, he's just misunderstanding how we use the term life. Life means that animating spiritual flow of energy that animates something, and specifically in the context of a human being, allows an ego to be formed in a body where a spirit has been attached to create a soul that's conscious with free will, that's intelligent, that's rational, that can set goals, achieve them, experience values, and achieve the objective purpose of life to be happy and feel great. That's what we mean by live life. Have a life. My life is my experience that I am living, and what we're all referring to in this context is life on Earth in a biological male or female body. That's what we mean when we say that's my life. I don't know why he's going into this little rant about it right now, but it doesn't make sense.
If you don't have a life, one could even say you can't even lose your life. You can only lose something that you have, but you are.
Yes, you lose your life here on Earth when you die. Your life is over on Earth. Most probably, according to all the evidence, it continues on in a different form, with a different body, a different avatar, in a different dimension, the astral dimension or the void, wherever. But you lost this life on Earth is over. Even if you're familiar with my Etheria series, and you're living in a heavenly world, or just some different world, and you're in a different avatar, and you live for 10 million years, and then you get killed, or you decide to die in that world and to leave, or to be memory wiped and reincarnated at your own conscious choice, because you lived for so long, well, you lost your life. But you didn't lose it, you deliberately chose to end it. Or you were murdered, for instance. I don't know why he's phrasing it like this. It's silly.
A life, you don't have a life. I am life, and life and consciousness are synonymous. It doesn't mean that every
No, life and consciousness is not synonymous. Oh, he goes into some crazy shit now.
form of life is conscious, but every form of life is, the way I see it, is matter. The table, a rock, mineral, it's like frozen consciousness. Plant life is like liquid consciousness.
This is just a stupid, I don't know if the right word is anthropomorphization of consciousness or a reification of consciousness. In simple terms, just wrong. No. Consciousness is awareness of a subject, an I, an ego, in relationship to objects. The object, again, could be a feeling, it could be a thought. In that context, I'm using object. Normally objects are physical things, but I'm using object in a broader sense to mean not just physical things like tables and chairs and windows and floors and whatnot, but also thoughts and feelings, objects in relationship to the subject, that spiritual observer, me. So a spiritual presence, observation, focus attached to an ego. That is what consciousness is. A table is not frozen consciousness. A plant is not liquid consciousness. They're bad analogies, misunderstandings.
It's an analogy, and the mind and thinking, and beyond that, consciousness itself is like vapor, mist, it rises. This is a water analogy. All life is a manifestation of the one underlying life or consciousness in manifold forms. So you are...
Yes, there are multiple forms of consciousness, but it's via degree of intensity, measured by the awareness. How aware is one? It doesn't come in frozen and liquid forms. You can't even call inanimate matter life, because that's the point. You can only have life in contrast to non-life. Inanimate matter in contrast to animate matter. Like a tree and a plant is still living, but they're not conscious like a human or even a dog or an animal. Are animals conscious? Well, there's a bit of a debate there, but there is the self-aware test, and some animals do pass that. It depends on what you're comparing them against. If you compare the smartest animal to the dumbest human, well, the dumbest human is still more conscious and smarter. But then if you're comparing the dumbest human to the smartest human, well, there's a massive difference. Depends on where the comparison is. But these analogies he's using are inaccurate.
That I am life is a wonderful realization. I am consciousness. I don't have a life. Yes, I have a history, but the history is not my life. It's stuff. It's stuff in the mind. It's
history and life are interchangeable. That's how it's most commonly used. He's also correct to say, I am life, sure, but when we say my life, that means all your history, all your experiences, your memories, etc. And your current, present life right now, not just the past, but your present and my life in the future as well. So I'm going to be playing Eckhart Tolle at 2 times speed because he speaks very slowly.
Be yourself. The Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece, of course, had the inscription, know yourself. But knowing yourself is the same as being yourself. Exactly the same. At that level, there's nothing to know. You are present, but there's no further knowing about presence.
So that's an oversimplification, which is very, very confusing. He says, knowing yourself and being yourself is exactly the same thing. And the way I would phrase that quite differently is you don't just be yourself. If you're someone who's conscious and wants to live according to your objective purpose in life, that is to be happy, you don't just be yourself, because being yourself isn't good enough to get what you want. You need to become the man or woman or being that you want to be. And in that process, you know yourself. You know what you want, what you don't want, and it's a becoming, which takes a long, long time to get to a point where you self-actualize and you have eventually become who you want to be. Am I at that point? Hell no. No way. Is this guy at that point? Maybe he is, because he's very old, and this is just what he wants to be. He wants to be who he is right there on the stage. It depends on your personal preferences. So just to say knowing yourself and being yourself is the same doesn't add any value to anyone without that kind of clarification on top. It's just confusing simplification that doesn't make sense on the surface, because really it's a becoming who you want to be, and then that's yourself, because your current self today is probably not where you want to be in all aspects of life. So just knowing yourself isn't being yourself, just being yourself isn't knowing yourself. No, it doesn't work like that. Exactly. No.
There's nothing you can know about presence. You can only be present. So to know yourself at a deeper level means to be present and know yourself as presence. There's another level to knowing yourself. There are two levels. One is knowing your own ego, recognizing your ego when it happens. Observe it, then you know yourself on that level.
He says, recognize your own ego when it happens. What do you mean when it happens? Your ego is you. Whenever you observe anything, you're doing it through the lens of your ego. You have that spiritual observation, that focus, the watcher, the observer. Anytime it's observing, it's saying, I'm observing. The observing part is the spirit, the I'm is the ego. Ego observing. Ego observing me, ego, or observing, spirit, or observing other objects, thoughts, feelings, etc. Black mental mind space. Just an inaccurate expression of what ego is. What Eckhart said.
At a deeper level, knowing yourself is being yourself. Is the universe telling me that I should stop speaking?
Yes, mate. It was.
So to know yourself on this more superficial level is self-observation.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny. I think Eckhart Tolle, he's like a spiritual Mr. Bean. He's a funny character. He's got some okay things he says. Sure, it's not all bad. Definitely not. But his audience treats him like a comedian. More than a spiritual guru, really, just like a comedian. Which is an interesting observation of his self.
And in self-observation, the ego dissolves.
What do you mean? In self-observation, the ego dissolves. And what are you observing, and who is doing the observation? Self-observation. I, spirit. I'm observing. Ego observation. Self-observation. What do you mean? The ego devolves. That's like in self-observation, the self disappears. That doesn't make sense. It's incoherent, right? Because ego and self are synonymous. They are, well, they're not just synonymous. They're the same thing.
And then knowing yourself at a deeper level is being the presence. That's all. And so both go together, because if you're not the presence, then there is not enough presence in you. And then knowing yourself at a deeper level is being the presence. That's all. And so both go together.
I wouldn't even call that knowing yourself at a deeper level. Presence, that's the beginning. Knowing yourself at a deeper level is really knowing what you like and what you dislike. your exact preferences for sexual pleasure, your perfect day, your perfect month, year, life, world. That's knowing yourself at a deeper level. Presence, that's the basic shit. Be present in the moment. That's not getting to know yourself at a deeper level. That's just what you need to do to shift your focus on your wants and desires and everything else in life and the world, in whatever world you're in.
Because if you're not the presence, then there is not enough presence in you to observe the ego in you. So they go together. You need the presence because only the presence only needs to be there so that you can recognize your own ego. In recognizing the ego, it dissolves. All the pattern.
Recognizing your ego, that's like when you take note, it's just incoherent. It doesn't make sense.
Go together. You need the presence because only the presence only needs to be there so that you can recognize your own ego. In
You can recognize you, so you dissolve. That's what he's saying.
So that you can recognize your own ego.
Recognize your own ego. You recognize you dissolve.
In recognizing the ego, it dissolves.
He's saying it. He's calling ego it like it's something else other than you. It's not.
All the patterns become harmless. You're no longer possessed by them. Let's say you look good and you like to dress nicely. There's nothing wrong with that. But do you derive your entire or a large part of your sense of who you are from that, which is you're in the grip of ego? Or are you simply...
It's not being in the grip of ego. That's more being materialistic. If someone gets a sense of identity from a greater sense of identity from the clothes they wear than the character they are, the way they treat people, the way they treat themselves, the way they think, how intellectual they are, how much they adhere to reason, the lifestyle they build, their ambitions, etc. If they identify more with their fashion sense, that's not being egoic, it's not even being arrogant. A more accurate term to describe that would be very materialistic and small-minded and probably quite unintelligent, because intelligent people don't get a greater sense of self from the clothes they wear in comparison to everything else in their life. So that was an inaccurate use of the term ego there. What did he say again? And he's right. It's nice to dress nice and look good. That's fine. There's no problem with that.
Derive your entire or a large part of your sense of who you are from that, which is you're in the grip of ego? Or are you simply enjoying looking good, do it while you can?
It's not being in the grip. That's just a terrible way to frame it. It just doesn't make sense again. You can't talk about the ego in that way.
Why not enjoy? If you look nice, enjoy it, and you can superficially even enjoy being seen by others. And okay, you can still, there can be a superficial enjoyment in that as long as you're rooted at a deeper level. You can still enjoy certain things on the level of form without being completely trapped in them, so that they no longer constitute the foundation for your sense of self. Then,
in a way, he's mostly right here. Yes, if you enjoy something, enjoy it, but he's trying to downplay it. He's like, oh, you can still enjoy it. It's like, no, if you do like fashion and that is something meaningful to you, if you like having a great body, a nice car, get enjoyment out of it. Just because we're in or on Earth doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy things at all. Enjoy everything as much as you can. Suck as much pleasure and happiness and satisfaction and joy out of everything. But the problem is if you get attached to that. And, well, what does that mean? That's another explanation.
you know full well, okay, I look nice now, and I'll make the most of it because I know what's going to happen to the physical form, what time will do to it.
Well, that's where attachment can come back because it's being irrational. Say what he said there, that's right. Time in this body, in this world, will kill this body. Your physical avatar is going to get older and weaker and more painful and die. If you're attached to this body, you're going to get really upset when that inevitable certainty happens, because you were irrational and you didn't understand that fact. The same thing with material possessions. Enjoy them as much as you can while you have them. But if something happens to them, they get destroyed or lost or stolen, it's like, well, okay, you can allow yourself to feel anger in the moment, and if there's a need for justice to rectify the situation, pursue that. But if it was your own accident or mistake, okay, it's done, gone, no need to mourn. It's like when I went through a psychosis, smoked way too much weed, fried the fuck out of my brain. I thought AI was taking over through all the technology, and I went crazy, literally insane, and I smashed my fantastic laptop that cost me thousands of dollars, smashed it, and I'm pretty sure I threw it overboard. Well, I don't know if I threw it overboard, but I smashed it with knives. I smashed some of my phones because I had multiple phones, and I I threw at least one of those over. Oh, I say overboard because I was living on a boat. And, after the psychosis and all that, am I pissed off about it? Nah, not at all, because there was no attachment to that stuff. Yeah, it's a shitty loss to lose those fantastic laptops, because laptops are my most prized possession in my lifestyle. More so than even a car. Though they're less expensive to a car, but they're more useful because more time and energy goes into them. And they store things like memories, photos, documents, etc. So they're more valuable than even a car, which might be worth more. But, whatever. I was out of control. I was losing my mind. Smashed multiple laptops, phones. Gone. Overboard. Whatever. I get a new laptop, start again. It's okay. So I had a lot of enjoyment out of them because they were it was a gaming laptop. That's why they cost more. With the powerful GPU in it. But if it breaks, it breaks. Okay. Done. Move on. Get a new one. It's replaceable. Whereas it's better to identify with things that are not so tangible, fleeting. Because my current perspective is, you go on. You continue to exist past this physical life on Earth. Invest in yourself, because that is lasting. This biological body in this world, that is fleeting. There's no point identifying with that too much. Or your fashion sense, or your laptop, or your car, or your boat, or your house. Because you can't take that with you from here. You can only take your knowledge, your personality, your skills that you've learnt, your application of logic. It's much better to identify, and if you will, be attached to those aspects of your identity than it is to be attached to materialistic things. You could keep your love for beautiful materialistic things, but not specific materialistic things. Not specific people, but you could continue with a love of people as an idea, but not specific people, because you can't take specific people with you. But you could take the idea of people in general, or cars in general, or fashion and clothes in general. You could take that with you. Depends on how you hold that item, that idea. You want it to be a helium balloon, not an anchor. Something that you can take with you. Bit of a metaphor there, but let's move on.
Also a possession. If you have something that you enjoy, why not enjoy it? But do you derive your sense of who you are from what you have? That's a huge trap. So you can enjoy an...
He's right there. You don't want to derive a sense of self too much. You can have a little bit from the things that you have, but it's so much better to derive your sense of self from your character. the people who get a sense of self from having all this stuff typically tend to not be very good people and quite boring.
Object that is in your possession without the egoic attachment to it. There's a difference between egoic attachment and enjoyment of something. And sometimes you may not know whether you have egoic attachment or simple enjoyment until you lose it. If then there's a sense of, oh, it's gone. The car that I loved driving in, somebody must have taken it.
I mean, you don't want to just have a blank, stoic-like reaction. Oh, someone stole my car. Oh, someone stole it. Okay, all right, whatever. I'll just get a new one. Nah, get fucking pissed off. Because that's not your fault. It's not like you were psychotic and you lost your car or something and you're like, oh, well, nothing I can do there. It's like someone took it. I want to get it back. I want justice. If possible. If it's not possible, oh, okay. There's nothing you can do. No point staying angry. You sweep that aside, get a new car, walk, get a push bike, whatever. But if it was deliberate malice, evil by someone else, get angry and try to rectify the situation. Obviously, don't let that anger consume you. But rational anger in response to having your car stolen is rational. To not have that is not rational. That's not healthy.
And now you will know whether there was an egoic attachment or just enjoyment. If there was egoic attachment, you suffer. There's a lot of upset and anger and wailing. Or somebody scratched it. Somebody, when you get back to your car, you just had it washed.
So I think the difference between healthy and unhealthy response, there would be suffering in the beginning, but the extent of that suffering is what defines what's healthy. A little bit of suffering, a car gets stolen, fuck, you're angry right then and there. But you don't want to be staying stuck in a state of suffering for longer than an hour, maybe even 10 minutes. But an initial response of suffering and anger, rage, is very reasonable. But it's unreasonable to stay like that for hours and days and weeks and months. Very unreasonable.
Tiny, and you get back to it, you're scratched. And here's the opportunity of finding out what kind of relationship you had with your car. Because before you might have told yourself, I like this car, I love it, but there's no ego in it whatsoever. And also when there's not an egoic attachment to things, also you're not going to accumulate unnecessarily possessions that you don't need, that in the egoic state just have the function of satisfying the permanent sense of lack that is the ego. So then you have to go on shopping expeditions every other weekend, and then you come home with these shiny bags, and for a moment the ego feels elated. Right? And here's a new pair of shoes. But the satisfaction doesn't last very long, and then the sense of lack comes back. I need some more. And in some people, it even develops into an addiction to shopping. Amazing. So, and that's a clear sign, if one or two of you still occasionally experience that, it's a clear sign that, oh, that's the ego, and that there's a lack.
No, wrong. He's onto something here, talking about the lack, but he's phrased it in a negative when it should be phrased in the positive. The ego, you, always want more. More experiences, more life, more things. That's good. That's what life is about. That's what living is. But it depends on what that more is. He's obviously picking on people who have a shopping addiction. And first you need to ask, is it a problem to that person? Is it a problem? Because if it's not a problem, don't make it a problem. It's only if it's unhealthy to that person and they're out of control shopping and buying stuff and hoarding and, they've got no money left, then it's a problem. And you can't just say that's ego. That's so unspecific and generalized. It's saying you are the problem. Well, yes, you have a problem and you are the problem to that unhealthy addiction, if it's shopping for clothes or if it's collecting cars or collecting beer bottles and filling up your house with them, or as he's going to talk about here, he likes watches. If you keep getting watches, whatever your collection or whatever you keep seeking more of dining out experiences, dessert taste testing, traveling countries, adrenaline junkie experiences, reading intellectual books, writing novels. It depends if it's a problem. We're always seeking more. That's perfectly fine. Depends on how you're doing it and if there's a problem. And if there's a problem, you can't just say you are the problem and then act as if that is a satisfactory answer. No, it's not. It's too generalized. That's the most unspecific you can possibly get, is by saying, you have a problem. Well, yes, I know. Doctor, help me. What is the problem? What do I need to do? Well, then you go into psychology and philosophy. Well, there's a problem here because there's this insecurity here about the way you look, and you think you need to stay up to standard with fashion trends because of what your friend's judging you. You're caring too much about what they think, blah, blah, blah. So there's a whole array of detail that's completely ignored and brushed aside with this one term, ego. He's using it interchangeably to mean so many different things, and using it in such a nondescript negative manner. Oh, the ego is always coming from a place of lack. Well, I mean, you can frame it that way, but that's the negative way. Whereas to say the ego always wants to pursue more. It always wants and desires more experiences, pleasure, happiness, because that's the point of life. To set goals, achieve values, and then keep on repeating. Experiencing the happiness that comes from the accomplishment of achieving goals and overcoming challenges. And that's fine. That's life.
There's always something lacking in this ego. It's part of the egoic identity is a continuous sense of not enough on whatever level. And some people try to meet it on the shopping level. So the difference between appreciating something nice, nothing wrong with that, because that's part of our surface reality where there are objects, and some objects can be very lovely to hold, and the sense of this belongs to me is less and less, and there can be an appreciation without this.
So he talks about belonging and ownership as if it's a negative thing. That's just stupid. Like that, it seems like it's coming from an agenda of evil people trying to take away your private property so then they can own it, and he's a softener. I don't know if he's doing that deliberately or accidental, but there's nothing wrong with ownership. That's perfectly fine. It's not just perfectly fine, that's rational. It's irrational to not have a sense of ownership over your stuff. Ownership is the exclusive access to what you own. My shoes, they're my underwear, that's my toothbrush. If there was no ownership of that, you say, oh yeah, anyone, just the Indian kid on the street. Oh yeah, you can use my toothbrush, mate. Yeah, because it's not mine, really. I don't own it. It's just silly.
Sense of this is my thing. So whatever you have, you look after it for a while, as the famous watch advert tells you. It's a very expensive watch. And they say you never actually own this watch. You only look after it for the next generation. That's an ad with a slight spiritual tinge to it. But unfortunately, you have to pay at least $20,000 to buy that watch.
So he just spends half his time cracking jokes that aren't really funny, but the whole audience thinks it's funny.
That on the whole, I don't get attracted too much to buying things. I never know what to buy. How to even clothes, it's hard to buy anything. It doesn't work. And when you might have noticed.
So his ego is obviously lacking like humor or something. He makes too many jokes. Or that's framed in the negative, maybe framed in the positive. He just likes making people laugh. And that's what his ego is lacking, is humor, again, but framed in a positive way. He just wants to be a comedian. So, okay, that's fine. He wants more of that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. If he's got a crowd who thinks he's funny and he just wants to be up there making spiritual jokes, okay, that's cool. Do that then. Don't be ashamed of it and suppress it and say it's negative.
And that's why when I look into a shop window, I sometimes can look at something nice, but I never really compulsion to actually buy it. But as far as objects are concerned, I like mechanical watches, so that's my personal thing. Watches that tick, they go.
So when he says, I like mechanical watches, he's saying his ego likes mechanical watches. So he can say I in a positive sense right now, that he likes mechanical watches and he likes the beautiful craftsmanship. But that's being an egoic grasp. As he would say earlier on, he's in the egoic grasp and he's identifying. He's got egoic attachment to this watch. And
you wind them up, or they're automatic on your event, and they go tick, 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 tick. And people have made them. They sat down and meticulously put them together, the watchmaker, in the old-fashioned way, giving it a lot of attention. They go, this goes there, this goes there. And if an object is made with somebody giving it a lot of attention, it doesn't have to be a watch, it can be a little artifact that somebody has spent time making and giving it attention, then once it's finished, it has that sense of quality to it. It's like the consciousness of the maker has become part of the object. And really, perhaps this is what we mean by real quality, that somebody has. Also, you can do the same.
And you see, he has massive egoic attachment, in his terms, to this watchmaking. And it's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, to really appreciate the craftsmanship of someone who's put a lot of work into building a watch. That's fantastic. But he frames it in a positive way like this, and he, with those previous examples earlier, he frames it in a negative way, which to people is really, really confusing.
With making a meal, then also, a meal that has been made by somebody who has given complete attention to the making of it, it adds an additional energy field to the meal that you can sense. It's done with care and attention.
Yes, your ego can sense the care and attention someone else's ego has put into the meal. So again, ego, just self. So this video is from Chase Hughes, and the video is called Your Ego is Not What They Told You.
Ego is not an enemy. I've seen a million articles say ego is the enemy, here's how to defeat your ego. Viewing it this way is a horrible recipe for failure. If people say the ego is the enemy, they're referring to it as being something different than a piece of you. I would want you to think that if I want to control you.
He's right about that. He gets this part right, and then he messes up the end. I was watching this video, I was like, oh, great, someone who gets it. Yes, I would do that if I wanted to control you, because he's a manipulation, psychological influence, hypnotic expert. He's got a lot of good content, actually, very interesting. Wouldn't trust him though, but as a friend or in his personal presence, but he's got some good information to share.
The ego is what we think we are. In the psychological sense, this term ego was popularized by Sigmund Freud and other psychologists like Carl Jung and Jane Lovinger. And at its core, the ego serves as this executive of the psyche. So it's kind of mediating between our base desires, what Sigmund Freud called the id, then society's rules on top of that, which he called the superego, and then the real world, if we can even say real anymore at this point. But it's the part of you that says, I want this, but is it reasonable or is it acceptable for me to have that thing? So the ego's kind of responsible.
Yeah, I don't really agree with Freud's interpretation of the ego, separated with ego, superego, id. I don't look at it like that. I think that's a pointless and meaningless categorization that just doesn't exist like that.
Responsible for your sense of self, self-esteem, self-worth, self-importance, but it's also the source of all of your negative self-talk, your anxiety, worry, fear, lack of confidence, social behavior that you don't want. The first thing that's wrong with our ego, it can be excessively critical, and it tends to laser focus on shortcomings.
So he says the first thing that's wrong with our ego is it can be hypercritical, meaning you can be hypercritical at times. Or some people can be.
Mistakes, and then it downplays your strengths and accomplishments. Like you didn't deserve that all the way. You didn't really.
It downplays, you downplay.
Really deserve that. So this can lower self-esteem. It makes it difficult to approach strangers, start conversations, continue conversations with confidence because we're behind our eyes. The ego hates failure because it sees failure as a threat to your identity.
You hate failure because it sees failure as a threat to your identity.
I define myself based on external things. So the ego is extremely good at comparing you to others, and it does this to evaluate your worth, your credibility, your confidence. It has to compare to other people.
Okay, that's fine. Reasonable, understandable.
Next, it makes you more reluctant to take a risk. So this prevents you kind of just stepping out of your comfort zone. It also overemphasizes social validation. So the ego...
No. Risk-taking is totally dependent on lots of different factors. You can't just go and say that's because of ego. Men are generally much more risk accepting. I think I've heard Jordan Peterson actually say that. That was one useful thing. Women are much more risk averse than men. Like, definitely say with physical things, men are always doing stupid physical things all the time, like jumping off cliffs or rock climbing, skydiving, etc. So there's a whole host of attributes to someone's personality, which is why they take risks.
More reluctant to take a risk, so this prevents you kind of just stepping out of your comfort zone. It also overemphasizes social validation, so the ego seeks validation from all these external sources to protect itself.
No, that's a particular trait of some people who have low self-esteem, who are insecure, and they can't make themselves happy. That's not the ego, that's their ego. Those specific people with those problems go out to seek external validation. People with healthy self-esteem and a healthy ego, a healthy self, don't do that. They don't need to.
Secure ego will employ these defense mechanisms like rationalization, denial, projection, minimization, and this leads to insecurity and feelings of inadequacy. That's because we have unattainable standards from the media.
When he says we, like he includes himself in that statement, and me, and you, and everyone else. I don't have unattainable standards by the media. He probably doesn't either. So be more specific in your language. Some people who have insecurity issues, low self-esteem, whatever other psychological labels that are accurate you can put on there, they have that issue.
These stages of ego development give us a roadmap for how people, from infancy all the way into adulthood and death, evolve their thinking, their moral understanding, and just their overall self-awareness. The model I'm going to give you tonight comes from this woman named Jane Lovinger. Level 1 is called the pre-social stage. If you just think of a baby who's just completely reliant on mom and dad, and at this point there's really no sense of me, there's no sense of I yet. The baby's kind of just...
Yes, because it doesn't have an ego yet. There is no ego because it's too young, etc.
Soaking in the world. It's dependent on caregivers, essentially. The impulsive stage, just a couple of years. Now kids start to think, I'm my own person. They finally have this weird realization. They're all about what they want right this second. If you give them what they want, you're the hero. If not, you get a temper tantrum from the kid. Then we move into ego level 3. The self-protective stage. Kids who are starting to control these wild impulses. But guess what? If something goes wrong, it's never their fault. It's always somebody else's. So this is a self-protective stage. This is the first stage where some people stop. The conformist stage. Just picture school-age kids who really care about fitting in. Everything's black and white. There's a right and wrong way to do things. No, I cannot wear those shoelaces. I can't wear that hoodie. I cannot do that at all. And their friends' opinions mean everything to them. It's a big deal. Self-aware stage.
I think there is some element of truth. For most people going through this early stage of processing.
Most of us stop right here, and this is where we start questioning things, and we start seeing that life has all of these weird shades of gray. We're more self-aware, but we're still pretty tied to what society expects from us. The conscientious stage. As we mature even more, if we get to level 6, we start internalizing rules, thinking deeply about our behavior and that behavior's impact on other people. And it's not just about avoiding punishment, it's about doing what's right because we believe in it. This is where I talk about off-camera leadership. How are you acting off-camera when no one's there, no one's looking? The individualistic stage. People who celebrate individuality, they embrace differences.
It's not really a different stage of ego development. It's just a bunch of different concepts thrown together on a graph of 1 to 10. The first few made sense in a chronologically linear progression, like the baby and how there was no sense of me, and then it starts to get a little bit more a sense of a me and it moves on. But then he throws in self-aware, conscientious, individuality. It's like they don't necessarily go in that order. They could happen at the same time. They could be different. You could have individual first, then self-aware because you're self-aware now that you're an individual. Then you have conscientious after. So, yeah, it doesn't matter.
But they're also getting pretty good at dealing with complex internal stuff going on in their mind. And they're getting better at inner conflict management, inner dialogue. And these are the people who I would say know themselves. So level 7 is, I would just describe as knowing yourself. The autonomous stage. These folks have reached a point where they can see multiple perspectives simultaneously. That's an important point here. Can you observe the conversation from a third party? But also, can I shift perspective to look over the solar system and see how insignificant I am? Can I visit?
So you hear this all the time. Like, he was onto a cool point about being able to see multiple perspectives at the same time. Yeah, that is a good quality. But then, this part, I'll slow it down to hear that.
Can you observe the conversation from a third party? But also, can I shift perspective to look over the solar system and see how insignificant I am? Can I...
To look and see how insignificant I am in comparison to the big wide world. So if you remember from part 1 talking about the ego, You can imagine the whole solar system, if it exists, not that I think it does in that form, but if it did, as a tiny little dot in your mind. You are bigger than the solar system, than the galaxy, than the multiverse. In a way, in a context. Don't feel insignificant in contrast to everything else. Don't do that. That's not good for you. That's not empowering, is it?
Physically be in a conversation and still be conscious that I'm literally spiraling another galaxy and we're on a collision course with a black hole as we speak.
Delusional speaking right there.
And these people just accept that life is complex. You notice what's going away as the ego goes up.
And you just accept what NASA tells you.
Judgment, certainty is going away. Suffering.
Hold on. What just happened here? What just happened?
Just accept that life is complex. You notice what's going away as the ego goes up. Judgment, certainty is going away. Suffering is going away.
What stupid shit. What stupid shit. He says, as you go up on this ego ladder, meaning the higher the better, what goes away is certainty and judgment. How dumb do you have to be to say something like that? Just how dumb. I'm not even going to explain that one. That's just so stupid.
Judgment, certainty is going away. Suffering is going away.
That one's okay. That's all right.
And especially level 8, the person regularly reflects on the lack of separation between themselves and other people. When they
No, that's dumb.
see someone else, they see, that's me. That's what these people are feeling.
No, that's psychotic delusion to look at other people and say, oh, that's me. You need to go to the loony bin.
The integrated stage. This is unicorn territory. Very few people get to this. This is about wisdom and empathy and a deep inner sense of peace. And most people who are coaches at level 5 think even to themselves that they're at level 9. And you know what keeps them at level 5? The certainty of where they are on this chart. People at this stage have reconciled.
Oh, this guy clearly, he's certain about his current level of understanding of certainty, but he's bloody wrong. He doesn't understand it, though he's certain he does understand the concept of certainty. But I guarantee he's never watched one of Leonard Peikoff's 2-hour lectures, and he's got multiple talking about the concept of certainty. My goodness. Chase Hughes, you know a lot, but on this topic, you know nothing.
Their inner conflicts, and they truly understand themselves. They don't just know themselves, they understand themselves. That's the difference here. This is the first true point of fully 100% living, not thinking, living in a way that they see no separation between themselves, trees, or other people.
One of the most retarded things I've ever heard a human being ever utter was that. No separation between themselves and trees and other people. Why would you even want that? How would you function? You're like, oh, I'm trying to take a step. Oh no, I'm getting confused because my senses are integrated into a tree's roots that's going 10 meters underground. And I'm not just one tree, I'm all the trees in the world at the same time. How could you function? Why would you want that kind of existence, that experience? That is madness incarnate. Either he's totally deluded himself, or that's a psyop, an agenda, from a group of intelligent bad guys who want to confuse the fuck out of people, and through confusion comes weakness and uncertainty. With certainty comes strength. And you can only have certainty through judgment. You need to objectively judge things so you can gain certainty on your evaluations, on truth, on fiction, on good, on evil, etc.
And I mean trees. She proposed a possible 10th stage. Flowing. This is kind of a new idea that's still being explored. Imagine just being so in tune with the world that you're just flowing through life. I think this is less than maybe 10 people on planet Earth. It's just an experience. They're experiencing every moment of their life no matter what happens.
What do you mean they're experiencing their life no matter what happens? That's what everyone does. How he used the term flowing was so unspecific again, undetailed. It's like, well, we're all flowing through life? Like we're kind of forced to flow through life? What do you mean by flowing through life?
I think this is less than maybe 10 people on planet Earth. It's just an experience. They're experiencing every...
It's just an experience. What do you mean? What do you mean? How is that different to everyone else's experience of life?
moment of their life, no matter what happens.
They're experiencing every moment of their life. Well, that's what everyone's doing. Oh, oh my goodness, people.
So how do we get out of the ego?
What do you mean, how do we get out of the ego? oh, let's go back to the start. That's at 7:55.
They're referring to it as being something different than the ego is the enemy. They're referring to it as being something different than a piece of you. I would want you to think that if I want to control you.
Okay.
Just an experience. They're experiencing every moment of their life, no matter what happens. So how do we get out of the ego?
Why is he now raising that question? How do we get out of the ego? Here he says he is treating it as a part of yourself. He's not saying your whole self. He's at least saying a part of yourself. And you'd want to convince people that there's a distinction between you and your ego. It's something that's not part of you. If he was someone else wanting to control you. And now he's saying, how do we get out of the ego?
I want you to just understand the concept of me is a fraud.
The concept of me is a fraud. This guy's a fucking piece of shit. A fucking evil piece of shit.
No separation from you and the outside.
That cannot be accidental. That is not accidental what he's done right here. No way. No one can be that dumb. That is deliberate psyop, agenda, evil cabal bullshit. Deliberate.
Is a fraud. There is no separation from you and the outside world. Like, I'm not observing the Big Bang. I'm not observing the universe. I am a piece of that. The molecules that make up you.
It's true. You are a piece of everything that exists. That doesn't mean you cannot observe yourself and everything else. You absolute retard.
Your body weren't created out of nothing. They've been here forever.
Yeah, so what if your molecules have been here forever? So what? What's that matter? Your ego has only existed for however old you are.
Literally forever. When the Big Bang happened, all of you, every molecule that makes up you, was there at that exact time. So I think the true pathway to finding the loss of ego.
He's reducing you and your ego to materialistic atoms. As an atomist, that's what he's doing, and that's why he's got these bloody ugly cheeky grin on him. Because he's like, oh, did I just get away with that? No, you fucking didn't. And look, he's got this on the back here. It almost looks like it says bang. Here he's talking about the Big Bang. Do good recklessly. What is this dumb shit? Do good recklessly. No, you don't do good recklessly. What the fuck? What is this bloody agent of chaos up to? That's why I said I don't trust him. He's got some good content. You have to be very discerning. Very discerning. This is a shit video. There's nothing positive really to take away from this, except if you're just going to break it down for all the errors and all the crap. But he does have some other interesting stuff. Well, these agents of chaos, they have to have something useful. Otherwise, no one would listen to them at all.
Happened, all of you, every molecule that makes up you, was there at that exact time.
Yeah, maybe for your physical body, but you are the ego, the spirit, the mind, the psyche, all the memories, the choices, your soul, the integration of it all. That wasn't there from the beginning of time. Perhaps your spirit, the observational presence aspect, has always been, not from the Big Bang, but in the void for all of eternity. But now it's part of you. Well, it's how it enables you to be you. So
I think the true pathway to finding the loss of ego is about keeping that.
To finding the loss of ego. What the hell does he mean by that?
So I think the true pathway to finding the loss of ego is about keeping that in mind as often as always, as close to always as possible.
Oh, that sneaky fucking bastard. That was a deliberate confusion tactic, and I know exactly why, because I have his book called The Behavior Operations Manual, and he specifically talks about confusion. He's got pages and pages of all these commands all about confusion. There is so much. The confusion statements, all these different commands. He's got so many different steps, and you look on the left here, there's just confusion to confuse people. I can't remember how many steps he had exactly, but he had so many different steps and different methods of confusion. And that was confusion because it doesn't make sense.
Literally forever, when the Big Bang happened, all of you, every molecule that makes up you was there at that exact time. So I think
he's about to start right now with his confusion statement.
True pathway to finding the loss of ego is about keeping that in mind as often as always.
Keeping that in mind as often as always.
Close to always as in mind as often as always, as close to always as possible.
As close to always as possible. And so look at his little smile as well. He's got the tight lips. Look at that tight lips and look at his mouth. Because he teaches this stuff to look at people's body expression. It's like that hiding, that guilt written all over his face.
True pathway to finding the loss of ego is about keeping that in mind as often as always, as close to always as possible. As often as always, as close to always as possible.
And so then he has the cheeky little smile because he's like, I just got away with it. I just hit him with that confusion statement because that literally makes no sense.
So I think the true pathway to finding the loss of ego.
So I think the true pathway to finding the loss of ego
is about keeping that in mind.
Is about keeping what in mind?
As often as always, as close to always as possible.
Nonsense.
They're referring to it as being something different than a piece of you. I would want you to think that if I want to control you.
Exactly.
I would want you to think that if I want to control you.
Oh, it's so small in that freeze frame. I couldn't get it to pause. Where you see the look on his face, the expression on his face is very similar to how it was before. Watch his face. Don't listen to what he says. Watch his face. Oh, actually, listen to what he says as well. I don't trust that dude at all. Just an agent of chaos. But there still is some useful stuff because he tells you how to be an agent of chaos. In this book, it is very interesting. The Behavior Operations Manual. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. See, section 3 is about authority and obedience. Okay, that's the end of dissecting Chase Hughes' video on Your Ego is Not What They Told You. He just agreed with the mainstream version of what the ego is. Something to lose and to cut out, to get away from, blah, blah, blah. It's a barrier to you. Because these people's agenda, the evil guy's agenda, is to destroy your individuation process so they can assimilate you into a collective. Prevent you from individuating, self-actualizing. So they have to do it in all these sneaky, dirty, evil ways. Okay, let's watch a video from Krishnamurti. He's some famous Indian dude I've seen popping around.
Is it our culture, our education, which has so emphasized the me so strongly, and you equally strongly? That is my ego and your ego. Right? The ego being created by thought. Thought which is limited.
And so he says this multiple times throughout the video, thought which is limited, but he never defines the limitation. What is he talking about saying thought is limited? I just don't understand what he means. Thought is limited to what? By what? If it was unlimited, what would that mean? How limited? A little bit? A lot? What does he mean when he says this? If someone knows, you put it in the comments for me.
Now when you look at yourself as an ego, the self-centered entity, what is it? Actually, what is it? Is it the name, the form, the shape, the idea, the concept, the image? Right? That is the me, with all the tendencies and all the rest of it. Essentially, it is the product of thought. Do you see that? Or do you say, no, that's not it. It is God.
Well, it's true. what he said. All those things form the ego, not just thought though, but feelings as well. Because a lot of the time people feel in a particular way and they can't even name the way they feel. They can't put a word and a direct, specific thought to it. So thought is a big part of what our ego is, but so are feelings, things we've seen that we know and don't know. All kinds of things make up our ego.
In me and God in you. You see, that's too silly.
Is it God in me and God in you? Well, it depends what you're calling God in this context.
Or you may say, you see, to maintain this division, man has invented so many concepts.
What does he mean, maintain this division? Man has invented concepts. No, it's just the nature of reality. Whether or not this is the only world or one of billions of other worlds, the nature of this world is there is division in the form of separation. My body, your body. And if you don't understand that, you're the one with a problem.
The Hindus have extraordinary concepts, the Atman and so on, so I won't go into all. Yes? You follow? To maintain this division and to continue in this strife and no way out of it, man has invented gods and all the rest of it. The saviors, all that nonsense to me.
I agree with him on that part.
So, can you observe this me, which is created by thought, observe it without introducing the movement of thought in that observation? Have you got it?
So he's basically just saying to sit there and observe your own observedness, awareness, without thinking any thoughts. And you can think thoughts verbally in words, have the narrator in your mind speak the inner monologue, or you can also think without words. And you can do an experiment. If you're sitting there, you can say in your mind, audibly and out loud at the same time, raise my left arm, and then actually raise your left arm. You can say in your mind and out loud, raise your left arm, but not actually raise your left arm. And then you could not say it out loud, just in your mind, say, raise my left arm, and then raise your left arm. And then you do it again, raise my left arm, but you don't raise your left arm. And then you take away the words, raise my left arm, and then you just think that without the words, and you don't raise your arm, and then you do it, and then you do raise your arm. It's really cool to test out that. So basically you get to the point where you can raise your arm, and you're not even thinking about it. Well, you are thinking, actually, to be more specific, you're willing it. You will it, there's no words. When you think it, I'm going to raise my left arm. You hear those words in your mind. That would be considered thinking. Though I'm not sure exactly. Maybe I will think about that a little bit more to see what the difference between will exactly is. Will, things that you do without words inside your mind. I will have to contemplate this for longer.
Please see first of all the logic of it. The logic. Thought is the response of knowledge and memory, which is the past. So
Thought isn't just knowledge and memories of the past, because you can imagine something right now that's new in your mind, like we did in the last video with the dolphin humanoid. I wasn't remembering that. I've never considered a dolphin humanoid in that shape before that's fishing for its mates standing on the pier. I gave that example in the past video. So thought isn't just of the past. It's using things in the past that I've seen, like a human, merging that with a dolphin, a pier, fishing. So it's using memories of the past, but it's using it to recreate something new that I've never seen or considered.
Is the past, modifying itself all the time, but is rooted in the past. And therefore it must always be limited, narrow, can never be whole.
So even if it's true, it's just in the past, why does that mean it's limited, narrow, and never can be whole? What would it mean to be not narrow, not limited, and to be whole? What does he mean by that?
Right? And thought has created the division in its action. The me and the not me, the you and I, we and they.
No, thought hasn't created the division. Reality created that division. And by division, meaning me, you, me and other. What is he expecting? Just all of us just to be one thing? If that was the case, there'd be nothing. I hate it when people do that.
And also created various kinds of divisions. The technological action, the personal action, the ideological action, the supreme action, and so on, so on. Right? That's a fact. Now, can you observe that fact? Please listen carefully. Can you observe that fact without thought entering into that observation?
Well, no, you can't observe a fact without thinking about it. You can be silent and still in your mind and not think anything. That's possible. Difficult, but possible. But when you're trying to contemplate a fact, well, no, you need to think about it because that fact is an object.
I'm coming to this. I just first go slowly. The gentleman says, it's the only instrument that I have. And therefore, how can I look without employing that instrument? You understood? Right? That's a wrong question you have put. Because
he's basically trying to ask, how can you look at the idea of, he said ideological action, supreme action, let's say courts, maybe he means courts and religions and churches, so a church. He's basically asking you, and he's getting pissed off, that you can't look at a church without looking at a church, and there being no church. He's like, because there is a church and I could look at it, physically or mentally, it's limited and narrow, and this is a problem, there's division. It's like, no man, you're the one with the problem here. A big problem. There's no problem with that. He's saying the instrument of your thought is limited and there's problems with it.
we have not clearly understood the limitation of thought. If you see clearly the limitation of thought,
it's like saying eyes can see things, and because eyes can see things, they are limited. They're limited. Because I see the blue chair, I am limited, and this is a problem because I can see the blue chair. What on earth are you talking about, man?
So you recognize the instrument is itself limited, right?
It's not limited. That's how it works. That's how reality works.
And is it possible not to employ that instrument?
Not to employ that instrument, he means, can you raise a fact of the world inside your mind, and can you observe it without thinking about that fact? It's like, can you look at the blue chair without looking at the blue chair, physically or mentally? No! It's stupid! What are you thinking, man?
If you find a particular drill cannot dig a hole, you find other means to dig a hole. But if you say, I've only this instrument, then you cannot dig a hole. You understand? So do we realize the instrument itself is useless to investigate into this question of conflict?
Of conflict? What conflict? He framed it saying, from my assumption here, and interpretation of what he said, the conflict is separation, division of me and you. And he's saying that's a problem. The instrument is useless to investigate this question of conflict. There is no conflict with that fact of reality. And our mind's ability to think is definitely not useless. Maybe his is, but it's anything but useless. Sure, the mind's ability connected to this brain and this biological body is limited because it can only hold so much information. It can't store memories and images photographically. So you have difficulty remembering things. You know, see, I said the brain is limited. Now I'm actually describing how it's actually limited, giving an example. He's done none of that. He's just used analogies without actually correlating it back to any solid principles. So, anyway, that was a bit of fun dissecting that.
That's the whole point. You understand? I wonder if you understand this.
You don't understand it. Okay, the next video is called The Brutal Truth About Ego, the Stoics Warn About, and this is from Ryan Holiday. Yay, we're finally here.
If you think you're perfect, if you think you're invincible, if you think you can do anything, you become stuck. It gets between you and what you're trying to do. What's most likely going to sink or destroy you is within you. It is you, and it's that ego.
He says it is you, and then it's that ego creates this irrational separation and distinction where there isn't any. It's not that you're going to get stuck if you think you're invincible and perfect. That's the wrong way to talk about that incorrect mindset. Believing you are invincible is obviously irrational and fantasy. You are very mortal, and you'd think the opposite of invincible would be vincible, but we don't have that word. You are not Wolverine or Deadpool or the Hulk. You are not perfect. You can be morally perfect, and that's bloody easy once you understand what moral perfection actually is. Learning moral perfection, perhaps that's the tricky part, but acting morally perfect, that's quite easy in comparison to many other things which are far more difficult, like teaching people that moral perfection is possible. That's way harder. Living morally perfectly, that's easy.
I was the director of marketing at this company called American Apparel, which was at that point one of the fastest, biggest fashion companies in the world. Had 12,000 employees, had stores in 20 countries, including some lovely stores here in Australia. They made tens of millions of garments a year. They had sales of nearly $1 billion. And I was working on that book as that company imploded.
Ego sucks us down like the law of gravity. So we saw the cover of his book title here, and it's ego is the enemy. Look, headless and armless, because he's taken away the ego. So there's no thinker here and there's no doer, because that's what the ego does. That's you could think of it as the software. It's the coding of who you are. It's all your memories, your experiences, your preferences, your concept. It's all your knowledge. And that's typically stored in your head. Without that, you were just like spirit. The wild horse running amok. You've still got your heart in there somewhere. You've got emotions, but there's no reason up here to guide it. You'll never be happy. You'll never find love. You'll never find pride. You'll never find any sense of purpose or meaning because your emotions need to be guided by your reason. It's like your emotions could be considered your heart, your feminine side, which are fantastic. It's good. But without the masculine polarity of reason, feelings are still part of your ego, but they need that reason to guide them, to lead and direct. Otherwise, you end up like this, headless and armless, a useless hunk of marble. Ego is not the enemy. Ryan Holiday is the enemy. Ego is your ally. It is you. And I will say, you can be your own worst enemy. You can. That can happen. But it's not by default. It depends on how you use yourself. Like a hammer, sure, it can be the enemy if you start hitting your own fingers. A sword can be your enemy if you use the sword to hack into your own legs. But that's not the way it's been designed to be used. A hedge trimmer isn't designed to cut off your fingers, cut off your own toes. It's meant to trim the hedge. If you're using it to cut off your fingers, you're using it wrong. If yourself becomes your enemy, you're not being a rational human being. You're not living as man qua man. You're living as man qua Ryan Holiday. Ego, you can suck yourself down. You can. Again, you can misuse yourself. You can misuse a tool. But when used correctly, and it can't say designed because I don't think ego was ever designed or created. It's just part of spirit, part of reality as a whole that's existed for all of eternity. So it's just drawing a vague but somewhat still quite clear analogy to those instruments, those tools I just referenced.
To pieces. And as it happens, Dove, the founder of American Apparel, fell prey to exactly that thing that I was just talking about. See, what happens when you do something that's hard or difficult is that along the way you meet people who tell you that it's not going to work, that it's too hard, that it's too risky, that that's not how things go. And by definition, you prove them wrong on the way to your success. If everyone listened to the critics, and the realists, we would never experience change. Nothing new would ever happen. And so to succeed is, by definition, to defy the odds and to defy the doubters. But what happens to a lot...
It's not by definition. He was onto a good point until he either deliberately or accidentally said it's by definition. Success isn't by definition to show all the naysayers. That's not what success is by definition. It can be actually what happens, but it's not by definition.
Of entrepreneurs and creatives and successful people is that they learn a very dangerous lesson from this, which is that you don't listen to critics, which is that doubters are haters, which is that people that try to guide you in a certain direction.
Doubters can be haters, but they're not necessarily the same thing.
Or help you or advise you are just holding you back. Sometimes they're trying to prevent you from plunging off a cliff. This happened at American Apparel. You can imagine, I'll give you another example. Elon Musk. When Elon Musk set out to take his internet fortune and put it into a space company, when he wanted to found SpaceX, his friends held a literal Alcoholics Anonymous style intervention. They said, you cannot do this. This is a terrible idea. You will lose all your money. Obviously, he didn't listen and created a multi-billion-dollar company out of that.
Oh, sure. That company has never made a single dollar. It gets tax from the government. It's a scam. It's a fraud. I'm not here to explain that to you. That's child's play.
So when he decided to spend $40 billion to buy Twitter, which everyone said is a really bad idea and won't work and will blow up in your face and everyone's faces, right? Why would he listen? He's been hearing that his whole life. And so what ego does is it makes it really hard to discern good advice from bad advice, truth.
What do you mean ego makes it hard to discern good advice from bad advice? No, it doesn't. Just silently pulling my hair out here. Your inability to reason, your desire to live by faith because you are apathetic, indifferent, and do not care about your welfare. You do not comprehend your metaphysical self-esteem or the status of yourself psychologically and metaphysically as a being that is alive, can feel pleasure and happiness, and that you deserve to feel good, that you deserve to get what you want, that you have the power to discern what's true from what's false because you live in a reality that is intelligible. You can't just say, oh, ego is the problem. It's far too generalized.
From fiction, it gets between you and what you're trying to do. Actually, that's how they define ego in...
No, you can't say it gets between you and what you're trying to do. I'm going to pause here and think of an analogy. It's like you've got an empty apartment and you're moving into it, and it's a big room. There's nothing there yet. There's plenty of space to put a couch, and you're saying, oh, damn it, unfortunately, I can't put the couch in here because all this empty space is getting in the way of me putting the couch here. What? No, the empty space is exactly where the couch goes. You're not understanding what empty space is and how a couch, an object, can fit into empty space. You're saying your ego is getting in the way of what you're trying to do. You're not understanding at all, not even close, what the ego is. It's just like that room. You don't know what a couch and empty space is. This is simple stuff.
AA. They say it's a conscious separation from. Ego is a conscious separation from reality, from other people, from objective truth, from...
No, it is objective truth. You are an individual. See, the agenda of these evil parasites is to assimilate you, to have you stop thinking as an individual, as a sovereign. They want to corrode your sense of self and individuality. They don't even want you to reach the conscious point of understanding there is such a thing as an individual. They want you to think in terms of culture and tribes and countries and nations, patriotism. I am just one with my family, with the people around me. This is what we do. There's no I, there's just a we. That's what they want, because then you are easy to control, because there is no you. You are just an extension of them. And what them really is an it. This religion is a thing. It's an object. It. Christianity or Stoicism or whatever it is. It's an it. You form part of that. Now you are controllable.
how things happened. It's something that inflates, that puffs up, that misleads. It's that voice that whispers in your head that they don't know what they're talking about. You're a genius. You were right last time. It's going to be like this always. It's different this time. That voice that gets in your head. And this is why, as Cyril Connolly said, ego sucks us down like the law of gravity.
What he was talking about is arrogance, getting cocky, thinking you are better than what you are. That's coming from a small ego, a small sense of self, someone who is not grounded with rationality, because rational people don't do that. They always know how good they are and they know where their limits are. You could use that for driving a car, racing a motorbike, shooting at a gun range, shooting a basketball hoop, whatever context it is, knowing how good you actually are. And you may be really good, you may be really shit, knowing what you can do and what you can't do. Arrogance is to not understand your limits. That's what arrogance is. That's a beautiful way to say it, actually. I've never articulated it like that. Normally I say arrogance is the belief that you are superior to your actuality, which means you don't understand your limits. You don't know where your flaws are. You can't recognize when you're making an error. You don't think it's possible for you to make errors. Sure, that's a specific expression of your ego, but what he does is equivocates and conflates the technical, factual term of ego as the encompassing of your conscious mind, subconscious, unconscious, all your memories, experience, knowledge, blah, 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 all that stuff. And he's saying, no. Forget about that technical term. It's just this one tiny expression, arrogance. Now that I've drawn that to your attention, you'll see that's so obvious. That's what he does.
Because sometimes they are right and we are wrong, and ego makes it really hard to discern the difference. And I saw that at American Apparel when they tried to tell Dove, hey, you got to hire competent operators to help you run this now enormous company.
Because essentially arrogance is an expression of subjectivism. Subjectivism really is just the wish to be God. And not an objective God, I mean an illogical, irrational God. A God that can make 2 + 2 = 5. That kind of God. Fair enough if you want to be an objective God, where you're bound by the laws of logic. Like a square has 4 sides, you can't have a one-sided triangle, you can't make a rock so heavy that you can't lift it, all those examples. But these people, that's what arrogance is. It's the wish to be a subjective God where you can rewrite metaphysical reality. You can change everything to your whims and wishes. That is nonsense, because no God can exist like that. The real almighty power are the laws of logic, the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction. That's the real God, but it's not a personal thing. It's a law just by the nature of all the existence. Whenever you say that word, it sounds like existence, but I'm saying existence, which means like the instantiated reference. Oh, same with that word, reference, English. Like the CE sounds like the TS, the reference. It doesn't matter, I'm getting particularly with my words here. Okay, let's move on.
Well, he saw all those competent operators as a threat. That's probably why a 21-year-old was running marketing at that company. In retrospect, I was also insane. When they said, hey, you can't have relationships with your employees, that's illegal.
Hold on. A 21-year-old was running marketing at a billion-dollar company. That's not believable. And if it is true, it's because he was picked for that because he's part of the cabal. He's part of their system. No real company, he said American Apparel, no serious company is going to hire an amateur to be the head of marketing. That's what he said, wasn't it? He didn't just say, I worked in marketing. He said he was the head of marketing and it was $1 billion company. It doesn't matter how good you are at marketing. You don't know shit at 21 years old compared to someone who's older. It's just, you have to use the power of discernment, which is your rationality and logic in action. Being able to identify the nature of what things are. And this is bullshit. Or if it's true, it's because actually, it just can't be true on any level. Even if he was handpicked because it was part of their families where they interbreed and all that crap, they're just not going to put him as the head of marketing. He'd be in some kind of support role, sure, you could see that, but not the head. You've got to be kidding me. It's not believable.
Was running marketing at that company. In retrospect, that was also insane.
Yes.
When they said, hey, you can't have relationships with your employees, that's illegal, he said, who are you to tell me what to do? And then got himself in a lot of trouble. When ego tells us that the rules don't apply, that we're better, that we always know what we're doing, and all these people are holding us back.
No, it's your subjective arrogance that tells you the rules don't apply, and that's exactly what you're doing, Ryan. That's what you are doing because you don't care about the truth, you care about making up shit. Or he's just, forced to spit this fairy tale nonsense because he's being held at gunpoint and he is born into a family that's been indoctrinated and they've got no choice and whatnot. If you don't understand all the backstory of how that works, then I can't help you in this video.
And I watched that happen, and it was a very terrifying and eye-opening thing. Actually, part of the reason I didn't quit the job is the Stoics said we shouldn't be pen and ink philosophers, just people who write and think all the time. We have to be out in the world, meeting people, doing things, experiencing things, so we can match the theory and the ideas with the nitty-gritty of actual life. And so it was a very lucky opportunity.
Obviously.
I mean, it was terrible to watch and sad and heartbreaking, but also very revealing, and it informed that book a great deal. I remember as I was working on it, I went and I visited an NFL coach who read Obstacle, and he said, what are you working on? And I said, I'm thinking about doing a book about humility. It was still sort of in development. And he said, oh, that's interesting. He said, ego is the cancer of my profession.
So people are the cancer of his profession. My goodness. A book about humility. Oh, this guy. I don't even care if it's not his fault. He's a piece of shit.
That really hit me. Ego is the cancer of my profession. I think it's the cancer of your profession. It's the cancer of all professions. It's a plague on this earth. I would say that the biggest obstacle that you face is not out there. It's not the economy. It's not regulations. It's not competitors. What's most likely going to sink or destroy you is within you. It is you, and it's that ego. And so how do we keep it at bay? What do we do about it?
Keep it at bay. Oh my.
The two questions that I've gotten the most since writing Ego's the Enemy. The first is people go, of course, ego's really bad. I know this. My boss has a huge ego. What can I do about it?
No, it doesn't. The bigger your ego, the better. Because what is your ego? It's your sense of self. How do you build a sense of self? Through experience, external information and extrospection, which creates input, and then you process it by thinking about it. You form judgments, opinions, you learn, you gain certainty in some areas, uncertainty in others. You're like, oh, I know this, I'm not sure about that, I believe this, I believe that. And you become a much more deep and wide being. The bigger the ego, the better. The smaller, the worse it is. Or not necessarily worse, because you might just be a baby. But that's what most of these people are, babies.
Never do they say, I have a huge ego, I need help with it. That's the definition of ego, by the way. We can see it in other people, but we think we don't have one because we're special and better. Of course we all have an ego, but it's just easier to see the flaws in other people and to point them out and focus on them than to look in the mirror and handle our own stuff. The second thing I get is people go, obviously ego's bad, but don't you need a little bit of it? You need a little bit of ego, right?
You just see right through what he's doing. He's on a mission here. Obviously ego's bad, yeah. Obviously it's bad.
And this is maybe something I didn't do.
Because where are they getting this concept? When has he ever defined what ego is? The idea of ego came from Jung and Freud, and it was probably even around back before then. I haven't done a proper historical survey, which I really should have. And that's my bad on that. I'll admit that. Because I'm not arrogant, I'm honest, which is not what this dude is. Just look at Freud. Das Ich, the I. How does he move from that to what he's talking about right now? How do you get to this? How do you conflate the concept so dramatically from its original origin? Original origin. It works.
Well enough in the book in retrospect, and if I was doing another version, I would talk more about it. There is, of course, a huge distinction between ego and confidence. I would actually argue, honestly,
confidence is something that you as an ego do, something you project. It comes from you. Where do you think that's going to come from? I just want to point out, just previously to this, he said, the biggest problem in business isn't going to be government and regulation. It's going to be you, your ego. That's not true. It's going to be government and regulation. They're the things that fuck people up. I've been there, done that. To be fair, a lot of the time it can actually be people as well, but, well, that would require a lot more information to see what actually causes more businesses to fail. If it's actually government or if it's actually people themselves, that's a very difficult one.
Was doing another version, I would talk more about it. There is, of course, a huge distinction between ego and confidence. I would actually argue on a spectrum, you have ego over here that sort of know it when you see it, ego that we all don't like, and we see how it holds other people back. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I'd actually say that like imposter syndrome or crippling self-doubt, people who believe the world is rigged against them, that it's impossible for them to succeed, that's another version of ego, because again, you're thinking too much about yourself. And that somewhere in the middle is confidence.
What do you mean you're thinking too much about yourself? How does that even manifest? What? They just say this stuff without any clarification. Because the way ego gets conflated is with arrogance and then self-obsession, self-centered, thinking too much about yourself, and it all comes across as a bad thing. You're selfish. If you're thinking about yourself properly, you'll be thinking, I want to be happier. I want to get what I want. Other people live in the world, so I need to learn how to treat them better so it's easier for them to give me what I want, whether that's to get in a relationship with them, to get them to pay me more money, to be my customers for longer. So there's positives from doing that. That ends well, provided you're being rational. If you're just thinking about yourself, I suck, I'm egoic, my life is crap. If you're just Ryan, well then you're going to have a bad time. But if you're being rational with your self-introspection, then that's going to manifest positive results for your life.
Confidence. That confidence is the Aristotelian, the golden mean between these two extremes. And I actually think one of the oldest fables we have, or the oldest stories we have, is an illustration of this idea. The story of David and Goliath is not a story of big versus small, it's a story of confidence versus ego. Goliath issues his...
Confidence versus... What is he... Even if you were to assume he means arrogance right now, with ego, so there's a contest between confidence and arrogance. So it doesn't even make sense. He's using a different concept now to represent ego, because he was always using it as arrogance, or primarily before. What sense is he using it now? I don't even know.
Famous challenge in the war against the Israelites. He's big, he's strong. Let's settle this man-to-man combat. Whoever can beat me is the victor. And this challenge is ignored for 90 consecutive days. This is cowardice, fear. You can't have that.
Actually, apologies. It probably is arrogance, because Goliath was... Well, is that going to be arrogance? Goliath wasn't thinking he's better than he actually is. He just knows he's a bloody giant and he should be able to squish a human. Like the whole slingshot story is stupid. It's not a machine gun. If he had a machine gun and Goliath just had no weapons and he thought he was going to kill a dude with a machine gun, that's arrogance then. That's stupid. But to come over and think, what's this puny little human? It's not even Achilles or Hector or something like that, from Trojan mythology. It's just, I don't know, whoever that other dude is, I don't know, religious bullshit. That's not arrogance. Again, so that's not the proper... They're so ambiguous and vague in their language. So non-specific because it confuses people. And people think they understand. They have some kind of semblance of understanding. But they don't actually have any grasp of real concepts because they're never explained. Because if they're explained, they'll fall apart.
Then no one steps up. And then what happens is David, who's a shepherd, is visiting his brothers in the army, and he hears this challenge. And he says, why not me? Maybe I'll try. And they laugh at him. Again, he's brave enough to think he can do it, and they're convinced why he can't do it. And he says, no, look, I know I'm just a shepherd, I'm not a soldier, but it's not easy being a shepherd. I have to be out there by myself, I have to take care of these animals, I have to fight off bears and wolves, to fight the elements. It's not easy, I think I can do it. And so as a joke, they fit him out in a soldier's kit, and he puts it on, and he realizes immediately that this isn't going to work. He's too small.
So that's not confidence, that is stupidity. That's recklessness, brazen idiocracy. To think, I'm a shepherd, I'm going to take out a giant. if that story was true, right? And I don't know if it's just a giant or a giant who was actually a trained warrior, if that's what Goliath was meant to be. Because that's not confidence then. That's reckless stupidity.
He can't even bear the weight of the armor. And so he takes it off and he has to get creative. He realizes he has his sling, he goes down to the stream, he fetches out a few stones, and then he steps up to challenge Goliath. And Goliath laughs at him, which is the last thing that Goliath ever does. Because soon enough, he's felled by one of these stones, which rockets off the slingshot at an incredible speed. And then this is the part of the story they don't tell kids. David cuts off Goliath's head with Goliath's sword. And in the famous Caravaggio painting where David is holding Goliath's head up like this, the head almost being big.
And he's got, Goliath's sword too, doesn't he? Yeah, right. Which obviously was a man-sized sword.
Bigger than his whole body. The sword that he's holding has the Latin acronym HOCS on it, which just stands for humility kills pride.
That is very true. Humility does kill pride. Just like napalm kills men. That's nothing to be proud about. Humility is self-abasement. It's believing you should act as a servant.
What David...
Humility, the state or quality of being humble, lowliness of mind, a modest estimate of one's own worth, a sense of one's own unworthiness through imperfection and sinfulness. So obviously that's not a modest estimate, that's an inferior estimate, an untrue, a lie, believing you are worth less than you are, self-abasement, submission. So here now, they're trying to redefine what humility is with the AI. Humility is the quality of having a modest and respectful view of oneself. No, it's not. Recognizing one's own limitations and weaknesses without arrogance. No, humility is arrogance. It's because you think you are better than reality. You think you don't have to understand words, definitions, and concepts. You believe your belief is superior to reason, to research, to study, to comprehension. You believe you have the ability to wish whatever you want to be true without working for it. That's why humility is a sicker version of arrogance than the typical charismatic, flamboyant style of arrogance. It's worse. It involves being free from pride, because at least someone who's arrogant openly might have some sense of pride about themselves. To have no pride is to take no satisfaction when you expend effort and achieve your goals. And having an accurate opinion of yourself, no, it's not. That's what honesty is. Honesty is when you have an accurate opinion of yourself, often leading to openness and a willingness to learn from others. No, it's not. It's saying you're not open to learning from others because you are submissive, low of mind. You have a terrible sense of self-worth. You're unworthy, imperfect. You're a sinner. How are you meant to learn anything without pride? My goodness. Okay, let's go back.
Which just stands for humility kills pride. What David has is confidence, but also some self-awareness. He thinks he can do it. He knows he can't do it certain ways. He certainly knows he's not as strong as Goliath. What Goliath has is ego, a sense that he is invincible and unbeatable, and thus totally unaware of his weaknesses and vulnerabilities. The reason ego is so dangerous is not only that, but it is...
It's like saying if I went to challenge, what is it, Hathor Bronson or something? Thor, one of the strongest men alive, and I said, I'm going to challenge him to a strength competition. I'm so brave, aren't I? I'm so confident. No, I'd be stupid because there's no way I can beat him. He wouldn't be arrogant to thinking, well, knowing he's going to win, would he? He'd just be honest and he'd be confident in his honesty. Because realistically, a slingshot's not going to kill a giant. Like, get real. A machine gun, sure. Maybe a handgun if it was well placed at his head. But this is a shepherd we're talking about, not a trained soldier. The whole story's stupid.
Easily outmatched by someone who has some humility and self-awareness.
It's like saying you don't have to train at basketball ever, and you can go onto the court and you can beat Michael Jordan in your first time shooting hoops. Like, don't try, don't become knowledgeable or skilled, equipped at whatever field it is, whether it's combat, strength, basketball, philosophy, writing, authoring, whatever it is. Don't worry about that. You can just do it. If you're confident and you have no ego and you're humble, you can do whatever you want then. Get lost.
David is able to do is pit his strength against Goliath's weakness. And you have to have this self-awareness to be able to do that. If you think you're perfect, if you think you're invincible.
That's no self-awareness. That is a complete lack of self-awareness. That is the lack of consciousness. That is somnambulance, which is a fancy word of saying sleepwalking.
You think you can do anything, you become stuck. One of my favorite quotes from Epictetus, he says, remember, it's impossible to learn that which you think you already know. We can see how, in a less violent domain, what ego does, when ego thinks that you're God's gift, when ego thinks that you're perfect, when ego thinks you know everything, in a sense, you're right, because you can't.
No, this actually isn't true. Because I think I already know so much, but I'm always updating what I know. And it's not because I'm arrogant, it's not because I'm humble. It's partly because I'm proud, but more so just because I'm honest and I care about the truth. So if you really want to know, if you come across evidence which contradicts or is better than what you already know, you'll change your mind. But if you're humble, meaning if you're arrogant, same thing, humility is just the sick, really, really sick, twisted version of arrogance, then no, you won't be able to change your mind.
Already know. We can see how, in a less violent domain, what ego does, when ego thinks that you're God's gift, when ego thinks that you're perfect, when ego thinks you know everything, in a sense, you're right, because you can't improve, you can't get better, you can't grow. Socrates, on the other hand, has this humility. He knows what he doesn't know. He's willing to ask questions, and in this, he's always getting better and growing. And so ego impedes us, it prevents us from changing and learning and adapting. And the confidence to know.
Obviously, Socrates took that too far. His most famous quote is, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing," which is so ostensibly contradictory. It's ridiculous how anyone repeats that.
What we don't know, what we need to do better, where we have weaknesses, this is what we're trying to cultivate here. And ego is this thing that it creeps in, it finds a way. And so it's not this thing that you get rid of once, but a thing that you have to constantly be on guard against.
Okay, we're going to the next video, 7:51, 8-minute video. Ego is the enemy of excellence. It's like tables are the enemy of intellectual property. What do you mean? Tables are the enemy of intellectual property? Or coconut oil is the enemy of bloody washing detergent. It's just a nonsensical statement.
Fighter, and now he's a coach. His name is Frank Shamrock. He's a UFC champion. He has a system that he teaches his fighters. He calls it plus, minus, and equal. And basically what he says is that every great fighter needs to have someone who's better than them, that they train under, someone who is equal to them in ability, that they challenge themselves against on a daily basis, and someone who is not as good as them, who they teach what they've learned from the other two. And it's this system that's being a student in everything that you do that is what makes you good.
Okay, I agree.
It's what makes you better. And most importantly, it's what hammers away at the ego that undermines.
Messed it up. You were onto something good, dude, and then you just messed it up by saying something incoherently stupid.
Our ability to be on a team or to relate and work with other people. Emerson has a quote that this is how I try to live my life as well. He says, every man I meet is my master in some point, and in that I learn from him.
That's not a healthy way to live your life. Every man may be able to teach you something, and that something might just be what not to do or how not to be, but that does not mean you should raise them on a pedestal to be your master. What the hell is wrong with you, man?
He's saying that even when you might be better at someone at 99% of what you do, there's still 1% that they're a little bit better at. And that's what you focus on. It's how can you absorb, if you can absorb one thing from every single person that you meet, you will become better and better and better, and eventually you'll become unbeatable. Even when you are doing great, what you want to be looking at is what you could do better, not what you did well. Elizabeth Noel Newman, she's a sculptor.
He's talking about becoming unbeatable and all this stuff. What for? Isn't that egoic? Isn't that a bad thing from his perspective? We don't even know, because what is his perspective, really? What is his whole point of view on life and on ego? What is it?
at is what you could do better, not what you did well. Elizabeth Noel
All we really know is that he hates this word, ego, which he's not attaching any concept to properly.
Newman, she's a sculptor, and she's saying this is something I try to live my life by as a writer. She's saying, I never look back except to find out about mistakes. I only see danger in looking back and seeing things you're proud of.
I never look back except to find out about mistakes. Okay, that's good. Well, except the never part, you should cut out never. I look back sometimes to find out where I'm mistaken, so then I can analyze what happened, identify the issues, and rectify my mistakes so I don't commit them again in the future. But why would you never look back at the happy memories you have? Like, for instance, why not? That's a big sign of some kind of neurological psychosis happening there. That's something super unhealthy, whatever it is. I only see danger in looking back and seeing things you're proud of. I can kind of forgive this one because I was in this idiot camp for many years where I thought the idea of pride was sinful because I bought into that religious bullshit. Pride is that sense of satisfaction which comes from accomplishing things. It's that feeling of being worthy and capable of dealing with reality. It's that sense of competency in action. Whether it's changing a car tire after you got a flat, you're like, damn, I feel proud about that. Or making a good YouTube video, and I'm like, damn, I really feel proud how I presented my ideas. Or selling a car at your workplace, because that's what you do as a car salesman. You sold a car, the first car you ever sold. Damn, I'm proud I did that. Whatever it is, climbing to the top of a hill, lifting a new 100-kilo bench press, you PB in the gym. That's what pride is. It's I'm competent. I accomplished something. And that beautiful feeling is a specific type of happiness, and it's called pride because it's only present when you've had to exert effort, mentally or physically, typically over a period of time. And the harder something is, the longer it takes, the more intellectual effort that goes into it. Say writing a book for 10 years. I don't know about that personally, but I've heard Leonard Peikoff, Ayn Rand talk about that, where they felt enormous feelings of pride from putting in so much effort. I look at my YouTube channel and I feel an enormous amount of pride, my website, of all the work I put in. That's not a danger. Bad ideas are the danger that say don't reward yourself mentally with these positive chemicals and positive psychology, whatever the hell's actually happening in your brain and mind, on a technical, detailed level. Don't reward yourself. Don't feel those good feelings, pride, happiness. Just do your duty. Serve the collective. Obey. Be a robot. Wrong.
Because this is what puffs up the ego. This is what makes you think you're invincible, that you are fated to win, that everything is yours by right. And of course, that's not the case. So you look backwards to find mistakes, and you look forward to find opportunities to apply those new lessons and be better.
He's just describing the mentality of a child, of an actual 4-year-old. Everything is mine by right. Mum, Dad, you have to do everything I tell you. Give me everything. Yes, okay, that's understandable when you're a kid. But that's it. The context changes when you grow up. Well, for most people, it obviously doesn't.
Than you were the first time. Marcus Aurelius is saying, ambition is tying your well-being to what other people say or do. That's tying yourself to outcomes. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you, but sanity means tying it to your own actions. That's tying it to what you do, what you think, what you can improve, not looking at what the scoreboard says, because that's irrelevant.
Let's read that again. Ambition is tying your well-being to... No, ambition is having the desire to pursue goals, bigger and better, to be constantly moving forward in a positive, beneficial direction. I want a better car. I want a better lifestyle. I want to travel more. I want to learn more. I want better relationships. I want to have a better mown garden. Whatever it is, the ambition is for you. It's to move in a direction of having more or better things, whatever that is. Your ambition might be to go on a 40-day Vipassana and to not talk. That might to have some kind of goal you want to accomplish. And then pride is that feeling you get when your ambitions are achieved, when your goals are accomplished. Ambition isn't tying your well-being to outcomes. That's the complete wrong use of it. It's like saying anger is that feeling when you're kissing a girl and you're getting a boner. That's like lust. That's not anger. That's a complete wrong way to describe anger. Using the wrong context. Anger is when you want to punch someone because they stole your car. Lust is different circumstances. Ambition is not tying your well-being to outcomes. It's having the desire to move towards goals. Self-indulgence is tying... I'm not even going to go over this. You can figure that out. It's not important. It's getting angry here. Okay, let's move on.
Think what you can improve, not looking at what the scoreboard says, because that's irrelevant. Ultimately, the scoreboard should not be as high as the standard that you personally hold yourself to. Do your job, do it right, right? Andrew Johnson, before he became president, before he was the governor, he's giving a talk, and a heckler cries out from the crowd. What the heckler is joking about and making fun of is the fact that Johnson comes from humble beginnings, right? He wasn't a born politician, he wasn't born wealthy. In fact, he was a tailor. His job was making clothes for other people.
How dare you call that as humble? Look at him standing there. Looks like a real smart dude. You can't just go around calling people humble. That's like saying that they're useless pieces of shit just because they're a seamstress, or because they make suits, or because they're a janitor, or just because of their job doesn't mean they're humble. They might be great people in other respects. I mean, if we're being realistic, a lot of people in the world who do have those shitty jobs are shitty themselves, but not all the time. Some people have those basic jobs and they're not humble, they're intelligent, well-mannered, polite, respectful, honourable people. Can't just say, oh, because he's a tailor, he's humble. What a rude thing to say.
Who were rich and successful. And what Johnson's response, and I think this is an excellent response, he's saying, that does not disconcert me in the least. For when I used to be a tailor, I had the reputation of being a good one and making close fits, always punctual with my customers, and I always did good work. Essentially what he's saying is, I don't give a shit what you think about whether being a tailor is a good job or a bad job. I was good at it. I did what I was supposed to do well, and that's what I take pride in, right? And this is something the Stoics...
Oh, now pride is coming in. Oh, now he's using pride in the positive sense. Remember before he said, humility kills pride. That's a great thing. It's on David's sword, Hawks or whatever. Humility kills pride. Yes, fantastic. You know, now I'm taking pride in my work because he was a humble man. Look at these contradictions. He said before, humility kills pride. This was a humble man here. Where's that spot?
And what Johnson's response, and I think this is an excellent response, he's saying, that does not disconcert, is joking about and making fun of, is the fact that Johnson comes from humble beginnings, right? He wasn't a born...
He comes from humble beginnings. So he's humble, then he puts in work and he actually explains something correctly there. He's saying he's putting in work, he's taking pride in his work, and so that doesn't disconcert him in the least from what a naysayer is saying about him. So that was an accurate representation, but what I'm pointing out is how Ryan is contradicting his concepts. He's confused, or he's pushing an agenda.
Least for when I used to be a tailor, I had the reputation of being a good one and making close fits, always punctual with my customers, and I always did good work. Essentially what he's saying is, I don't give a shit what you think about whether being a tailor is a good job or a bad job. I was good at it. I did what I was supposed to do well, and that's what I take pride in, right?
Exactly. That's when you can feel pride. But he's saying a humble man, I've said it numerous times, hopefully you do understand it by this point. It's very obvious. The difference between humility, pride, honesty, how this guy is conflating his concepts, he's equivocating, he's using them in different senses. He'll use pride he'll equivocate pride, and he'll say pride in this sense is really good, and that's an accurate use of the term pride. But then he'll say in other videos, oh, pride, kill it with humility.
And this is something the Stoics talk about over and over again. We're all assigned roles in life. These roles change, but what matters is what we do in that role while we have the opportunity. Epictetus is...
Yeah, because the Stoics were idiots. They believed in determinism. We're assigned these roles. We've got no power of free will. You don't want to have any Stoic philosophy in you. It's nonsense.
Change, but what
and if you don't understand that, I've got a playlist, a short playlist with a few videos from Aaron Smith talking about Stoic philosophy. I think that's all you need. Yeah, just Aaron Smith will crush that philosophy for you.
Matters is what we do in that role while we have the opportunity. Epictetus is saying, first you tell yourself what kind of person you want to be, then you do what you have to do. For nearly every pursuit, we find this to be the case.
Also, in that playlist, yeah, about Stoicism, go to my channel, go to playlists, Stoicism, Nietzsche, and Skepticism together. First video with Harry talking about Stoics, then there's Aaron Smith's one. He's got 1, 2, with Yaron Brook there as well, so 3 videos about Stoicism, and then there's Leonard Peikoff explaining the history of Stoicism, and then they're about Nietzsche and Skepticism. I've just put them into this false promise of Stoicism. That's Aaron as well. That should be, can I drag that up here now? Oh, I can. How about that? That should be up there. There we go. Problem solved. Fantastic. Actually, let's put it here with Aaron, because that's, okay, fantastic.
Those in athletic pursuits, they choose the sport they want and then they do that work, no matter whether that's the sexy part of the work, that's the work that gets attention, that's the work that's fun. They do that and they do the work that's necessary. They do every single thing that they're assigned to do. This is carved on the mantelpiece of Sir Henry Royce's house, right? Sir Henry Royce is the guy that...
Oh, whatever is rightly done, however humble, is noble. That's what's written on the screen. No. I'm not going to explain it again.
Founds Rolls-Royce. Whatever is rightly done, however humble, is noble. So you do your job and you do it right because that's your job.
Whenever you're doing anything humbly, it is ignoble. There is no nobility in debasing yourself, humiliating yourself. The people who filmed the Jackass movie, Johnny Knoxville and Butterbean and those other dickheads, it's funny, but there's no nobility there. It's like Borat when he's running around naked, chasing that fat dude who's his producer or something. Oh, it's hilarious. He's a great comedian, but it's not noble because he's humiliating himself. We can have a laugh and it's okay. We don't think he's a piece of shit or anything. It's a good joke. He's funny, but it's not noble to humiliate yourself like that, to get shot out of a bloody cannon or to run face first into a cactus bush. That's not noble. And that's what humility is. It stands there and opens doors for other people. It gets on the ground in front of a big square in Mecca and prays. It wears a headdress as a Muslim woman. And it's humiliated because it says, I don't have the power to control what I do have the power to control. That's what humility is. I'm going to embarrass myself by disrespecting myself, by pretending I don't have power where I actually do. Obviously, it's rational to say, personally, as James, I don't have the power to change everyone's minds and to get 1 million people to watch this video tomorrow. I don't have that power. That's rational. But to say that, oh, there's a gym here where I'm staying. Oh, I don't have the power to go to the gym. Oh, no, it's outside my control. Well, that's humble, which in a way is arrogant because it's putting a false belief over the knowable, understandable, intelligible facts of reality. To observe, introspect, extrospect. No, I can actually go to the gym. I don't actually have to wear this headscarf as a Muslim woman. I don't have to be part of this religion. I don't have to get down on my hands and knees and chant to Allah or some other stupid god. I don't have to go to church on Sundays, etc. Humility is to think you have no power where you actually do have power, and then what they also do is they think they have power where they have no power. I can pray and I can make everything happen. I can focus on the law of attraction and manifest whatever I want just from thinking about it. No, you don't have that kind of power. You have the power to throw off that silly headscarf, but you don't have the power to make your wishes come true by whispering to the voice in your head.
And you take pride in that fact. You take pride in excellence. That's what the Stoics are saying. Doesn't matter what happened to you.
Another great example of pride. Yes, take pride in what you do with excellence. Okay, that context, just there, it's got my thumb of approval.
It doesn't matter why you're doing it. What matters is that you do that task well and you see it as an opportunity to be excellent in what you do. Marcus Aurelius, again, he's saying, pay attention to what's in front of you, the principle, the task, or what's being portrayed. That's it. The thing in front of you, that's the opportunity, not the thing far off in the future. The lesson I learned from this is something I think about when I might be wanting to cut a corner, I might not want to do something well. How you do anything is how you do everything. How you do this task in front.
No, that's not necessarily true. That's not an absolute principle. You could say how you do most things is how you do other things, but find examples in your life. I'm very diligent with many things in my life, many things, but I don't make my bed, for instance. So, I have a messy bed, therefore I have messy everything else. No, I don't. My computer space is clean. My bag is clean. I've got a very minimalistic lifestyle. I've got all my cables tied up. I've got everything has a place in its place in my backpack because I'm traveling at the moment worldwide. I've been for a couple of years. Everything's very neat and tidy, but my bed, no, I never make that. Oh, but how you do everything is how you do one thing is how you do everything. No, it's not true. That's not a principle. That's a hasty generalization. It can be applied in some aspects, but you can't apply that as an inductive generalization, as an absolute principle, because you can find examples in your own life where it's not true. And if it's not true, don't go talking about it as if it is.
Front of you right now is a reflection of who you are as a person, and it's a reflection of your general attitude towards the rest of your responsibilities. And then that leads us into our final lesson, which would be follow the process. Marcus Aurelius is saying you must build your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this. So this is two.
Well, to an extent that's right, but lots of people can keep you from your goals. It's called living in the world. But he's saying Marcus Aurelius said this. He was the emperor of Rome. So perhaps for him, and no one can keep you from this, is contextually correct, but we're not emperors of Rome.
1,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world, he's reminding himself that you take things step by step. You don't focus the distant future, you focus on what's in front of you,
Yeah, it's not useful for us. But it's important to understand what people can stop you from doing and what they can't, contextually.
On doing it well and right. This might sound familiar to you guys, right? This is the process, right? This is the Stoics talking about the process, the thing that you guys hear and see everywhere. I was in your stadium earlier. I saw the process starts here. This is that same idea 2,000 years later, tested in battle, tested in the highest military and political offices in the world, tested by creatives, by authors, by entrepreneurs, by some of the smartest people who ever lived. They're living their life by the process. What we ultimately control, the Stoics are again making the distinction between what we control and what we don't control, and what we control is what's in front of us. Goethe is saying, what matters to an active man is to do the right thing.
They don't understand what they can and can't control because they believe they don't have free will. Like they're so confused, the Stoics, on that point of view. What matters to an active man is to do the right thing, but the right thing comes to pass should not bother him. Well, it should bother him. Otherwise, why are you doing the right thing? You do the right thing because it matters. You care about it. So if the right thing doesn't come to pass, like the government being destroyed or idiots waking up and becoming intelligent or you leaving the reincarnation soul trap earth matrix or whatever, you get pissed off. Sure, you understand if it's out of your control, okay, it's outside your control, doesn't mean you kick and scream forever, but you understandably respond with anger and injustice.
Whether the right thing comes to pass should not bother him. We tend to be A to Z thinkers, right?
Because if it doesn't bother you, then why do you care? You only do the right thing because you care about it, because it does matter.
We forget that all the letters in between, we forget the little things, we forget the process, right? If you're pinned on the ground, what you do is you don't focus on being free completely. The first thing you do is you don't do something stupid that gets you choked out. You take your time, you get your bearings, and then you break it down step by step, right? You give yourself a little bit of space, you try to get to your side, then you pull maybe a leg out, you trap an arm, you buck your hips. This is a process. Being trapped, being pinned down is not fate, it's not over. It's a methodical thing. Breaking it down step by step is how you get out of here. It's not one big swoop, it's not one major move. That's not how you do it. You break it down, and you see the best fighters in the world do this. I'll leave you with one quote. This is a Stoic quote that I try to remember more than any other. I think it applies in every single situation. Marcus Aurelius is saying, objective judgment now at this very moment, right? That's our perceptions. That's how we look at what we're seeing. We're seeing it clearly and objectively. We're not.
So I mean, this guy who talks about ego is talking about objective judgment as a good thing, which I definitely agree with. But obviously Marcus Aurelius didn't objectively judge because he came to the conclusion, being a Stoic, that he had no free will, even though he acted clearly like he did have free will, but it's just cognitive dissonance. Just a flaw built into the human brain to hold two contradictory ideas and consider them both as true. I mean, that comes back to Heraclitus, one of the earliest ancient Greek philosophers. Everything flows and nothing abides, where things are what they are and they aren't what they aren't. Oh, no, apologies. No, the opposite of that. They are and aren't at the same time, which is not true. That's a violation of the law of identity, of non-contradiction. Why I brought this up about the objective judgment is because Hugh Chase was saying, as you get to level 9 or 10, whatever it was in his graph, You know what falls away? Certainty, judgment, and suffering. Okay, suffering, that's good to fall away. Judgment and certainty. How the hell are you ever going to stop suffering if you can't judge or be certain about anything? But it's just funny because Chase Hughes was talking about ego and he says judgment is bad. Now, Ryan, he's talking about judgment being good. So it's just this presentation of ego from all these people who talk about ego. There's no firm basis. They're not all on the same page pushing the same bullshit. They're all pushing slightly different versions of bullshit.
Not bringing anything to it, we're looking at it for what it is. Objective judgment now at this very moment. Unselfish action, so that's what we're going to do about this problem. That's not acting with selfishness, that's not acting with ego, that's acting as a team.
Then why would you be acting at all? Selfishness is to pursue your own values for your sake because you understand you are worthy of life and should be the primary beneficiary of your actions. Anything less than that is insane. It is irrational. You can only be you. For you to be you, you need to survive. You need to live. You need to focus on yourself first and foremost. Only then can you focus on others. Children, friends, family, your team, your soldiers, whatever it is. You need to be selfish. To be selfless is the dumbest thing you can do, just about. Well, it's right up there. I don't know if it's the dumbest thing, but sometimes you got to be a little bit hyperbolic.
Doing your job, it's doing it well, now at this very moment, right? And then willing acceptance, that's accepting the things you can't change, that's focusing exclusively on the things you can change, that's focusing on your response, not on why you're here, not on what caused this, not on what mistake you made or someone else made. So objective judgment now.
True, objective judgment, good. Willing acceptance, okay, but they're going to apply it wrong, I just know. Objective judgment, now at this very moment, yeah, okay, unselfish action, stupid, whatever. Willing acceptance of all external events, okay.
Now at this very moment. Unselfish action, now at this very moment. Willing acceptance, now at this very moment of all external events. That's all you need. Marcus Aurelius, those are the books.
Because there's a big difference between acceptance and approval. You can accept that the world is fucked and the police state nightmare we live in is absolutely awful. You can accept it. You don't have to approve of it. There's a big difference.
And of course, whoever wants to can email me, and that's me on social media too. I know you guys don't like email anymore. But anyways, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's awesome to see some of the best people in the world at what they do, and I hope this is helpful.
Okay, that's enough. Oh, I'll just leave that up. Elite, let's pretend it says ego here. Big ego, this character. Right, well, that's the end of the video. We could go over Ryan Holiday for a lot more. That was only 20 minutes of his work, and I've taken a while explaining it. But I hope you get the message here now. Ego is your ally. It's you. I'll be, over the years or the months or however long that I'm still alive here, I'll be making new videos and I'll be putting in any updates that I find about the concept of ego and how it relates to your spirit, your soul, your subconscious, your conscious, and how your spirit, etc., how they all interact and how they work. But it's absolutely not the way these people have been explaining it, because their concepts, their conceptualizations, their definitions, their explanations of ego are just non-existent. They just throw that word around willy-nilly in negative manners all the time to try and bash the shit out of it to make you look bad when you're selfish, when you're proud, when you have judgment, when you have certainty, when you're a good guy, because they're demons that are trying to pull you down. That's what they do. They want to dissolve your ego. They want to annihilate you. They want to burn the individuality out of you so you merge into a hive mind. You become part of the collective, because then you're not a threat. You're only a threat when you're an individual. A threat or a non-food source. Oh, there's many different ways to talk about that. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for this video. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye.